Hi Grace Kids, welcome back to Grace Kids TV. My name is Nikki Jessic and I serve as the Alpha Coordinator here at Grace Church. It's so great to be joining you again today. In today's Bible story, we will learn about when Saul sinned and was rejected. When was the last time you were given an instruction but chose to ignore it? Or have you ever partly done what you were supposed to do but did not fully obey it? Well, in today's story, we're going to learn why obedience is so important to God. God gave the Israelites a king, but Saul did not obey God. God had a plan to send his son, Jesus. King Jesus trusted and obeyed God perfectly and died so sinners could be forgiven and accepted. But before we get into today's story, let's head over to Grace Kids Trivia to see what you remember from last week's story about God allowing Saul to be king. Good luck!
Question 1, true or false? While walking home one day, Saul heard the people in his town cheering. He wondered what they were cheering about. And the answer is false. This is not true. It was actually the opposite. While walking home, Saul actually heard the people in his town crying loudly. He asked everyone why they were crying. They said that Nahash, the leader of the Ammonites, had come to capture the people. The people tried to negotiate, but Nahash wanted to hurt them. He said if no one came to help them, that they would have to do whatever Nahash wanted. Question 2, true or false? When Saul heard this message, God's Spirit came on him and he was very angry. And the answer is true. This was true. Saul sent a message throughout the land calling for men to come and fight. So the people came together to fight against Nahash and his army. Saul had messengers let the people know that help was coming the next day. The people were so happy. Then they sent a message to Nahash to let him know that they would meet him the next day. Question 3, true or false? The next day, Saul brought his army to the city and went into the camp where Nahash's army was staying. The two armies decided to not fight and to work together. And the answer is false. This one was definitely not true. When Saul's army arrived at the camp, all of Nahash's soldiers ran away. Saul said to his people, "Today the Lord has rescued Israel." And that leads us to our next question of the day. Question 4, true or false? After this happened, the people made Saul their king. And the answer is true. This was true. The people thanked God and celebrated. God chose Saul to be the next king of Israel. With God's help, Saul brought the Israelites together to win the battle. And our final question of the day, question 5, true or false? God sent his son Jesus to be the king of Israel after Saul. Jesus was king of Israel for 50 years. And the answer is false. This one is not true. God sent his son Jesus to not only be Israel's king, but he sent Jesus to be everybody's king forever, not just for 50 years. Jesus came to rescue people from sin and death.
Hi friends, it's me, Megan, and I am Jessie. Cool crown, Jesse.
Thanks. I'm getting us ready for today's Bible story. I can't wait to hear all about King Saul and how he ruled over the Israelites.
Well, Jesse, I better warn you that today's Bible story is not a happy one.
It's not?
No. King Saul made some wrong choices.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh is right. There are lots of kings in the Bible, and we are going to learn about many of them, but only one of those kings is perfect.
Jesus!
Yes, Jesse. King Jesus never sinned. He is the only perfect king. That's why Jesus is our king forever. Here's today's Bible story. King Saul took a group of soldiers with him into the hills. Saul's son Jonathan took another group of soldiers to a nearby city. Israel's enemies, the Philistines, were in the land. The Philistines came to fight against the Israelites. They had more soldiers, more chariots, and more horses than the Israelites. When the Israelites saw the Philistines, they were afraid. Some of the Israelites hid. King Saul wanted to ask God for help. Maybe he could make a sacrifice to God, but that was not a good idea. Saul was not allowed to make sacrifices. Only the priests were supposed to do that. Saul waited and waited for Samuel to come. Some of Saul's soldiers started to leave, so Saul decided to make an offering to God himself. Then Samuel came. "Saul, what are you doing?" Samuel asked. "You have done the wrong thing by offering the sacrifice. You will not be king for very long. God is going to find someone else to be king, someone who obeys him." Sometime later, the Israelites won a battle against the Amalekites. God told Saul to destroy everything, but Saul did not obey. He only destroyed things he didn't want. God told Samuel, "I am sorry that I made Saul king because he does not obey me." Samuel told Saul, "You rejected God's instruction, so God has rejected you as king." Saul admitted his sin and asked for forgiveness. Samuel said, "God is going to make someone else king." God made Saul king, but King Saul did not obey God. God sent his son Jesus to be king over everything. King Jesus obeyed God perfectly and died so we can be forgiven.
Farmington is home. This place actually used to be called Tota, which is Navajo for three rivers, because there are three rivers that meet here in Farmington. You have Native American cultures, you have Hispanic cultures, you have white culture, and all of them are blending together. Growing up, Navajo and Hispanic, I mean, these are my people. So it was always going to be, when I finished up my college and seminary education, to come back home and to do gospel work here. This is a forgotten area. It's a neglected area. The Navajos are a forgotten people. And so there are a lot of problems here, a lot of drug abuse, a lot of alcohol abuse. And you combine that with poor education, high illiteracy, broken homes, a lot of poverty. It really creates this perfect storm. So I got hired on at a high school here. Working in the schools has really given me a unique opportunity to share the gospel with a variety of students as they come into my office. They know that there's someone at the school who cares about them, who they trust, who they can go and talk to. And what that has done is, with our youth group, it's predominantly these students coming from that context that want to know more, and they're hungering for more. there has to be churches for these people. So when people give, it enables us to do ministry effectively. The Navajo people are just like any other people. They're a people who have a proud, rich history, but they're a people who need Jesus Christ. So we're here to spread the gospel, to give the good news to a forgotten people in a forgotten place.
Hi Grace Kids! For our craft today, in addition to the story that we learned about Saul, we also saw the Missions Moment video about Josh. And so for our craft, we're going to color this picture to help remind us to pray, and specifically what to pray for Josh. So I'm going to show you exactly how to color it. Okay, all that you need is coloring utensils, and I'm just going to use crayons, but you can use markers or colored pencils or anything that you might have in your classroom. This is a symbol for the Navajo people group that Josh was working with and spreading the gospel. And then your poster's done. At the bottom it says, pray that the Navajo people will hear the story of Jesus, just like Josh is spreading that news to them. Pray for Josh as God calls him to do gospel work in his hometown. So you can hang this up as a reminder to pray for these specific things. When everybody is decorating, please pray as a group. Either have somebody lead your group or have your teacher lead you in prayer. And then take your poster home so that you can also continue to pray throughout the week. Thanks so much for watching Grace Kids TV. Have a great week.